at the top of the hour right here on France 24. Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is The World This Week. With us, Vivian Walt of Time Magazine, and Elisabeth Moutet of the Sunday Telegraph, Craig Kopitas of Quartz in the Atlantic, and Anne Baghameri of the International Herald Tribune. As we broadcast on this Friday, we're getting news of yet another shooting spree, this time in the northeastern state of Connecticut in the U.S. 27 killed, including 18 children, was the toll that we were getting from the Associated Press as it happened. And it's not the first shooting spree this year, Vivian Walt.
It is just absolutely unimaginably horrible. And it keeps happening over and over again. And the most dismaying thing is why there has been no real big political response to gun control. We keep coming back to this being a constitutional right for people to bear arms. The whole gun issue has been completely politicized. But the fact of the matter is that there is a vacuum at the top, and that President Obama has been extremely wary of going into this issue. And I think he's behind popular sentiment on this. And I think most Americans at this point would say, let's do something about this and crack down hard and, take the political risk.
But I disagree on this because Connecticut is a blue state. It's a state that has restrictive gun controls. This is not Arizona. This is not Texas. And I don't like, because this is a horrible event, and I don't like to quote the line from the NRA, but they say it's not guns that kill people, it's people who kill people. This is a shooting rifle for hunting, I think. You could find it in France. I mean, it's not the fact that there are so many guns, although it can be the fact in other areas. But in this specific instance, it's not just the gun laws. It's one of the places in the United States where the gun laws are the most restrictive. I think perhaps New York City is the only
there are
one.
other issues here. There's mental health issues. There are all sorts of issues. But on top of that, there has to be a nationwide campaign against guns. It just seems like it's way too late and way too, timid.
It is. Gun control in the United States is a contradiction in terms, and it has been for many years. And Obama can make as many calls as he wants to the FBI after the fact. There are so many Americans own so many light and heavy weapons, in perhaps the tens of millions, that cutting off guns right now is really not going to do anything to stop it, because you have so many weapons out there, and then weapons will be smuggled.
So what do you do?
Well, you prevent people from carrying weapons. You try and pull them off the street. Oh, shock horror, the National Rifle Association will say. And even if you tried that, you wouldn't get very far, because there are people who said if they tried to pull this constitutional right away, that there would be another civil war in the United States.
It's not that kind of state again. It's not
like
a
matter of
state.
the state. You're getting I think you're getting bogged down here in whether it's a blue
I think
state
the real
or red
problem
state.
is
There's
unemployment
guns
problem
everywhere.
in that part of Connecticut. I think you said mental health, and I think we're quite right. I think this is part of it is the horror of something that you cannot explain, but part of it has got to do with the economic conditions of that place. We talk about Connecticut, and we all know about Greenwich. But
there are plenty of depressed areas of the United States where people don't go in and kill school children. No, I think Vivian's onto something here. I think we're talking about a moral leadership vacuum at the top, and I think that moral leadership can provide an awful lot of cover for the really tough political fights to come. And look, let's face it, we were talking about politics before. Blue state, red state. This president won without any of the red states.
Yes.
I mean, they all went for somebody else. Who is he going to tick off if he starts talking tough about guns? He's going to tick off people who weren't going to vote for him anyway. I hate to sound like Mitt Romney and the cocktail party.
No, but how do you talk? Tell me how
you.
you talk tough about guns. This is what I've never understood.
You start by saying that line in the Constitution, which I believe is the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, that is being misinterpreted in modern day. That was written at a time when people billeted soldiers in their homes. That hasn't happened in centuries. It is a misinterpretation of something that the founders put in. And so you start there by saying anybody who believes that that carries down to our modern day and gives you an inalienable right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and to own a gun is
You're going to do that, and you're going to make Roe v. Wade look like a legal case over a parking fine.
fine.
Well,
It
then you
was- it was
do.
Obama
Bring it on.
Take the risk.
How much more evidence do you need that this is something that the country
Oh,
needs?
I agree with you.
And
It
then
was
I
Obama
said
who
that
talked about
every
those people
parent
clinging
that
to their
sends-
Bibles and their guns.
Every
So
parent
these
that
people don't
sends
like
their
him
kids
anyway.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So go for it.
Yeah, except that he doesn't have the courage to do it.
But every parent that sends their kid to school in the morning has got to be behind this issue. They've got to know that their kids are safe in schools. And
At the University of
this
Colorado,
has been going
now,
on
they
for
have a-
20 years.
They have a dormitory at the University of Colorado that is dedicated to students who are packing heat. It's true. You can look it up, as the man said.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. The in the United States, where gun control is a contradiction in terms, what you would like to see done, and that's the right thing to do, and I agree with you, is not what the lumpen American public wants to do. They would rather create
University
a
of
special
Colorado,
dorm.
they're not lumpen. They pay $50,000 a year for their education. It's a rich state. It voted left. I'm really sorry, but we're not talking about lumpen here.
Yes, when it comes to guns, you are. I don't agree with this thing about state borders being some kind of demarcation zone of the gun culture, or whether a state voted red or white. It's really easy to get a gun anywhere in the United States. Anywhere.
Try New York. It's not so easy.
But you can drive a gun across state lines. Nobody, probably the highway patrol will not pull you over.
Yeah.
But they need to start doing so.
Well, if you want to look for other parallels, guns and cigarettes are the only two products you can buy as a consumer that, used correctly, cause death. And look what we've done. And look what we've done with cigarettes. Nobody's really had much of a problem with the idea that cigarettes are demonized and taxed and made difficult to get and restricted from the hands of children and advertised against. Okay, how about guns?
And some of the founding fathers were tobacco growers.
Yes, they were, and slave owners.
And French cheese, but let's not go there. Thank you. Europe moves in mysterious ways in a bid to prevent another financial crisis of the kind we've been experiencing on this continent. European leaders finally agreeing to oversight for its banks, a major step. Well, most, but not all of its banks, those worth more than 30 billion euros. Still, that's 85% of the continent's lending institutions. But it leaves out Germany's troubled regional savings banks. Berlin throwing its weight around quite a bit at the Brussels summit this week, downplaying the chances of recovery, nixing a loosening of fiscal rules for states, and even pouring cold water on the banking supervision decision they just signed on to. Well, in fairness, it wasn't Angela Merkel herself. It was the head of the German central bank, Jens Wiedmann, saying he's not sure that the ECB's governing council is the best body to decide whether a bank should be shut down or not. The Germans at this summit really in pre-electoral mode, Anne Bagger-Mary.
Totally, and got a lot of what they wanted. Got a lot of what they wanted out of this banking regulatory framework, which won't take effect until 2014, if then, which only covers certain banks and so forth. No, it was. It's very true that what the Germans did at this, what Angela Merkel did at this summit, and what her finance minister did in the marathon negotiations among finance ministers just before that, they got something they could sell to the German parliament. And let's face it, every parliament in the EU has to approve this banking regulatory framework. That's why it's going to take until 2014.
And by not putting the smaller banks, is that sort of a do as I say, not as I do?
Well, on the other hand, she gave up big too, because she did agree, and Schäuble, her finance minister, agreed that the ECB can reach down and intervene in any bank anywhere in the Eurozone if necessary. Now, what does if necessary mean? It's been left deliberately vague. But as François Hollande said, quite memorably, even small banks can cause a lot of problems.
All right.
So then the Landesbanks, the ones that the Germans want to protect nationally, they're not really so protected anymore.
All right. We're going to have to interrupt and go to Connecticut and listen into that press conference after the shooting at that school that's left 27 dead, including 18 elementary school students.
At 9:30 this morning, Newtown Police received a 911 call for an emergency at the elementary school. Newtown PD, upon obtaining information as to the stature of the situation, contacted the Connecticut State Police and requested assistance from state police and surrounding local police departments. On and off duty troopers responded to the school, and with Newtown Police, immediately upon arrival, entered the school and began a complete active shooter search of the building. That included checking every door, every crack, every crevice, every portion of that school. Our main objective was to evacuate as quickly and efficiently as possible any and all students and faculty in the school. The entire school was searched. That was accomplished. A staging area was set up. The students and staff were put into that staging area, and soon thereafter, the children and staff were reunited with their parents and their loved ones. There were several fatalities at the scene, both students and staff. There is no information relative to that that is being released at this time until we've made complete and proper notification. The shooter is deceased inside the building. There's a great deal of work that is undertaken immediately upon locating the shooter, and that is there's a great deal of search warrant activity, there's a great deal of law enforcement activity both in and out of state to ensure that we cover all the bases relative to that specific individual. Suffice it to say, the scene is secure. State Police Major Crime Squad, Newtown Police Department, Danbury State's Attorney, and many agencies are working together to answer all the questions surrounding exactly what happened. As Mr. Ochogrosso said, we will keep you briefed, we will keep you informed on a regular basis. We will put everything out via our website and with these press conferences. I'll turn it back over to Mr. Ochogrosso right now.
The governor took a call from President Obama a little while ago, who was calling to express his condolences and condolences on behalf of the nation, and pledged whatever resources the federal government can bring to bear to assist the families and to assist in the investigation. We will get you information as soon as we can get the families the information. That's where the governor is. At some point later today, the governor will be here, and we will set up regular briefings. Thank you.
Are all those briefings going to be here? Again, no questions at this time. I apologize. We will not be able to answer any questions. As I said, the scene is secure. The situation is secure. We will notify you shortly when we will come back for another briefing as quickly as we can.
But you can say that the public is not in danger.
The public is not in danger. That's correct.
Hey, Lieutenant, everything here, right? All the briefings here?
Right here.
How many fatalities are there?
All right, there you heard remarks there from law enforcement officials after the shooting at that school in Newtown, Connecticut, in the west of Connecticut. Interesting, they did not give a specific toll as to how many were killed. They said, though, that there were fatalities that included the shooter himself. The U.S. President Barack Obama has spoken to both the FBI director and the governor of Connecticut, Dan Malloy. Earlier, the Associated Press had reported that a 20-year-old Connecticut man with ties to the school could be involved, but that was citing an unnamed source. So it is an evolving story. We don't have a specific toll at this point. It's suffice to say that children are killed. Listening to all of this, I'm just reminded of when Ronald Reagan was the U.S. president and he was shot, and one of his aides was in a wheelchair, James Brady, and they put a bill before Congress, and he sat in Congress, and the lawmakers had to file by him to vote, and that bill still didn't get passed.
That's all you need to know. Probably the best metaphor you could think of. And that was coming from a Republican administration, which is classically pro-gun control. And if James Brady couldn't pull it off, I don't see who can pull it off or how it can be pulled off to end this gun culture in the United States. I just don't see it.
Certainly something that we'll continue to follow. We're going to continue to follow this topic as it develops. Again, we don't have a toll right now in terms of how many people were killed. Earlier, the Associated Press was reporting that there were 27 killed, including 18 children. No further news at this time other than, as you saw, the confirmation that the shooter inside the building is dead and that the location is secure and that there is an investigation going on in several places. It's interesting, though, you said, Craig Capitis, that it's not going to move minds. We see a moving of minds on other issues that are sort of related to this in terms of how you deal with law enforcement. The Virginia Tech killings a few years back were a huge shock to the system. And we've seen more and more the way you handle things like coercion and prevention of killing is evolving with greater numbers of Americans who are against the death penalty.
That's certainly true. There's been a great body of research that shows that the death penalty isn't a deterrent. If someone's going to kill, they're going to kill regardless of whether they think they might get the chair. And one of the reasons the death penalty is not a deterrent is because it's so seldom applied. Because the system in the U.S., I mean, I love my country. And what I love about it is that you can usually see what government wants you to do through the laws. It's really a very transparent system in a way. Tax laws tell you what they want you to buy and what they don't want you to buy, and whether they want you to get married or not married. The penal system is so profoundly conflicted over the subject of the death penalty that they make it incredibly difficult to put anyone to death. I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, I'm just saying that it is. The number of appeals, the number of technicalities that you must examine, the fact that you can appeal it all the way to the Supreme Court. It's not surprising to me in a way that there are fewer and fewer states that are sticking with the death penalty. Connecticut is one that recently repealed it. And you have to, I haven't lived in the United States for 25 years, so it's hard for me sometimes to get into the mind of the average American. But I suspect that what is happening now is that with so much random violence and so many incidents like this touching ordinary people, this thing's going to have ripples through the state, through the region, through the country, just the way Columbine did, just the way Aurora, Colorado did. You've got people now who are actually touched by this issue. And they might see that the death penalty is not the way to solve the problem, but that gun control might be. All
right, we're going to see how this develops. And, of course, we're going to continue to follow this story as it develops. Apologies if we've curtailed a bit some of the topics we were going to broach here on The World This Week. But, of course, in the face of this tragedy, we had to go to breaking news. Vivian Walt, I want to thank you. I want to thank Craig Capitis, Anne Bagger-Murray, and Anne-Elisabeth Moutet. Thank you for joining us here. Stay with us. You're watching France 24.